And say good evening to everybody from me, Ilana Cravitz in London, and good evening to Beth Silver, who I believe is there in Toronto. Hi, Beth.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's delightful to have you with us. I've been really enjoying the recordings you've done so far. And do you have a niggin for us for today, the niggin of the day?
Yes, I'm going to start with one of the four that were assigned to me. I got number 12, and this is a Tish-Nignim. So it was sort of meant to be, maybe it would have been sung at the table, probably after a dinner, after Shabbos. And I sort of adapted it for a string instrument, in this case, the cello. I hope you enjoy it. And I'm going to attempt to sing.
Beautiful, absolutely.
Ah, okay, that's singing's done.
It makes us all want to play the cello. It's when we had Francesca on the other day, I was like, oh no, nobody's going to come back for the fiddlers. Now we've heard the cello.
Yes, actually, I should give a shout out to Francesca because watching hers made me want to try singing.
Ah,
So she was my inspiration for that one.
it's great. Well, they've
Yeah, because hers is so beautiful.
start with. So, do you have? I know your mom's a musician and a music teacher. Do you have a tradition of singing Nigunim in your family at all? At family,
Wait, how do you know that my mom's a music teacher?
there's a lot I know that you don't know.
um, I guess so. I grew up in a sort of observant reform household. So we were very involved with our synagogue when I was younger. That was kind of my community. That it was sort of that gave me my sense of community and flavor and family and friendship. And as I got older, I started to find that more from the music community rather than the Jewish community per se. And very recently, I've sort of found the Klezmer scene, and it's a perfect mixture of both for me because it brings back a lot of the nostalgia that I experienced when I was a child at synagogue, at summer camps, at cultural events. Sort of brought back some of my favorite things about them, very familiar sounds and people. And it incorporated it with music and the music world and tradition, and it's been a really great mix.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for a lot of Jewish people to be able to find a cultural identity through the music is really special. It's great. Do you want to play us another melody?
Sure. So I'm playing them chronologically. I mean, chronologically as they are recorded here. This is number 48. It's a Volekh. Oh, I actually have some information about this that you provided, Ilana. Thank you. Apparently it's from like the Kiev area, and it would have been taken down in 1929, like early 20th century. And the guy who, let me see his name. His name was Yaakov of Telechanas. Apparently he was like a very popular songwriter, and he was the one who made this tune at the time. Also in G.
Fabulous. I've got a question here. Is this the fruit of your time in New York?
Pardon?
There's a question. Is this the fruit of your time in New York?
Who asked that? Well, it definitely, okay, I guess I should give a shout out now. This is going to be awkward, and it could be awkward. Yeah, for those who don't know, I just sort of, I guess, I want to say I just came home from New York, but that was a while ago, I guess. But I spent February in New York and learned a lot from that. That probably is like 90% of what has influenced me. I am, thanks to the Canadian government, I did a mentorship where I took lessons and studied with Jake Schulman, who is apparently watching. Hi, Jake. Giving you a shout out because a lot of my playing is probably influenced by him. I kind of learned lots of tunes through him, mimicked a lot of sort of his playing. Kind of, we would just play through phrases and I would copy him to learn about the ornamentation, phrasing, and just general styles of playing, kind of to see if I can do that violin stuff but translate it to cello. And I really think that's made a huge difference with how I would have interpreted these, of course. Yeah, and it was a really fun time. And I came home from New York at the beginning of March, and then a week later we were locked down. So had a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah, usually there's not enough time to assimilate the information and then, you know, let it settle before you go into something else. But this time you've had lots of time.
And actually, thank you so much, Ilana, because if I, well, not only do I have lots of time, but for including me in this project, it's given me an outlet and a place to really try and use that and apply that knowledge.
Well, thank you for participating. And now, of course, I'm starting to have this fantasy about having a double cello project where we just arrange all the music for 2 cellos and 33 violins, of course, on top. How about some more music? What do you think?
Sure. So this one is an Tish-Nignim. It's from the Volekh province from 1913. That's from your information. All I know is that it's a faster one, so it gives the idea of sort of a dance. I don't remember what I was going to say. Maybe I'll think of it after. Okay.
Great, that was definitely more dance-like. It's interesting, isn't it? They said he said that this half of the book, the 158 that we're working on, not us two personally, but in the project, he said that they're the ones for the table songs, as it were, rather than the ones for dancing. But some of them are so clearly feel to them.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I was like, where does the second half start? Because this is number 81 of like what, almost 200. So it's...
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, okay, actually, I shouldn't actually assume that it's a dance because the tempo marking that they give is 132. I used that as a reference. Some of them I didn't stick as much to the tempo markings, but the tempo markings are kind of just supposedly they're kind of estimates or rough estimates of what the style of the song would be. So.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with the keys. He standardized them all to G in this particular collection, but we do have some of them from this collection in other collections where they're in different keys, so that hence the instruction that came down. You can do them in any key you like, wherever it feels comfortable. And but
also like what you were talking about yesterday with Eleanor Basinski brought up that in the archive recordings a lot of them are played at different speeds or recorded at different speeds, so it's not really clear what key they were originally in too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of movable feasts going on there. Does anybody else have a question at this point that they'd like to ask Beth? Anything in the chat? I can't see everybody, so you'll have to put it in the chat. No, they're blown away. They just want another tune, I think.
Okay, this next one it's a pretty fun one, I think. This is number 116, and then there was a variant upon it, 116A, if you get the music and you want to check it out. Yeah. Info, also from Kiev district. 1937 is the date that is written down in your spreadsheet. So yeah, let's try it.
Another cracker, thank you. There's a few questions. One was, were you familiar with any of the Nigunim before the concert?
No. No, and I actually kind of looked online, like I looked a little embarrassingly hard to find a recording of them to use it as sort of a reference. But I couldn't find any. It's possible that I just didn't have the knowledge of where to look, because it's pretty hard to find a lot of Jewish archival resources online. For those of you who don't know, the record of Jewish music that's kept is relatively small compared to other cultures. And so a lot of that stuff isn't really available just in a general Google search, let's just say. So I just sort of took them and applied whatever knowledge I have from hearing recordings and playing other songs.
Yeah, I think most of there are some of these recordings in the archive in Kiev that contains the Beregovski canon, if you like, of music collected by him, but also the ones from 1913 came from one of the previous expeditions into the field by Jewish people researching Jewish music at the time. And he then transcribed some of those tunes as well, and that's how we have them. There's another question. I think Francesca talked about this the other day. Do you know of any klezmer cellists that would have played melodies as opposed to accompaniments back in the day?
Yes, she did talk about this. I don't know. I think that I know as much, if not less, than she does on this subject.
I think she is here, actually. I think she's joined us.
Sorry?
Hi,
Francesca. There's traditionally, if cellists were used in klezmer music, they were more of a bass line or a bass role. And what should I say? I guess it's, but I'm sure that there were some who played melodies or who could play melodies or wanted to, but I don't know of any recordings. I personally haven't heard any. Yeah. Until now.
Now we've added to the canon, we have a whole new archive. This is true. Any other questions coming through from there? Let's have a look. Nothing. Come on, people. Oh, I had a question. Given that you're quite new to this music, the same question that was asked from Eleanor yesterday about the difference between playing classical music and playing klezmer. I think that's quite interesting for people.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really great question. I mean, I think that a lot of the principles of music apply to any genre, right? Sort of senses of phrasing and how to sing, how to use your instrument. The knowledge applies to every genre of music. It's just that we use our instrument very differently in klezmer music. Not completely differently. I actually kind of I should confess, I do sort of a hybrid right now because I guess it's just what I'm comfortable with. I sort of revert back to classical tendencies, like the way I add vibrato to notes, the way I sustain notes and sometimes crescendo through a note to the next note and stuff like that. That happens in klezmer music, but I think I do it more frequently than a traditional klezmer musician. Also I add, this is gonna sound silly, but I'm aware of, I add whole tone trills and usually sometimes I try to change most of them to semitone, but sometimes it's just natural, it just comes out. And in klezmer music, you don't really find so many whole tone trills. It's mostly half. Mind you, that's just left hand stuff. When I first started, when you were talking about this yesterday, I was really interested, I wanted to contribute, but I just kept my mouth shut and was like, okay, it's probably gonna come up tomorrow. You'll have your chance. When I first started klezmer music, it was really, really hard to switch the way I used the bow. The bow is actually the biggest difference. The klezmer ornaments, the Cravitz, that is like 90% the bow and then 10% the left hand going down. For those of you who don't know what a Cravitz is, sorry to a lot of my friends who are tuning in are not classical or not klezmer musicians, and for those of you who are, I'm sorry for boring you. But a Cravitz is that sound that's kind of like a guttural, like a weep at the end of a note. Oh, sorry, I should tighten my bow first. Sorry. It's this. Whatever. So that took me a really long time because I was like, what are they doing? And it's completely against anything that we do in classical music because we don't we like to slow down our bow, or if we speed up, sorry, this is, I'm not explaining the word. If we increase the velocity of our bow, it's going into the next bow. But in a Cravitz, you increase and then you just stop and start again. And as you stop, you place your finger down or lightly. And that's something that's like so backwards and unfamiliar in classical music that it feels, at first it was really, really hard to do it because it's like, it would be totally wrong. Like your teacher would get mad at you, kind of thing. And it's just something that we just never do. So I found it really difficult. Like that hiccup sound. I could probably go into more depth, more detail, but.
Well, I was actually going to ask if there was a tune that you'd learned during your residency in New York that you'd like to finish with, if there's no more. Well, somebody's quelling, they're saying that they've known you since you were a baby. And brought them back to klezmer music after having disappointing experiences in Krakow. So there we are.
Sure. I recently took out this Dobry Den that I learned from Jake and Pete Rashevsky. Apparently it's Pete's birthday today. Happy birthday, Pete.
Oh, happy birthday, Pete.
I'll just play a little bit of it. It's not in G. Okay.
Thank you, Beth. That's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. For those of you who haven't been here for other days, Ilana has organized all of this with fiddle players, fiddle players, and cellists from all over the world. And it's really an honor to be involved. And Ilana, you've done so much work. You've put so much time into this. And it's really a pleasure, and it's been really fun to watch. Thank you.
Well, it's fun for all of us as well. Thank you very much, Beth.
That was fun.